Alright, let's go back to our original sculpt, the one that we ended with at the end of all that skull building and muscle building. And we're going to start to apply the golden ruler to different measurements. So I'm going to just append the golden ruler, and let's just see how far off we are. I'm going to move it forward. And make sure perspective is off. We want to do this without perspective. Interesting little tip right off the bat. You can see the tip of the nose, top of the head, bottom of the chin. That's kind of fascinating. But we want to check our first measurement. And that's going to be the eye, which we know is halfway, to the chin, and see if we can place the nose. So I'm going to move this over using transpose. You can put it right in the middle. And it's pretty simple. Snap from one end to another, but make sure that you do not have this diagonal thing happening here. What you might want to do when you are doing this step is you want to draw out into empty space. And then you can use move. It'll proportionally scale these things. I have checked. And I'm just pressing shift and pulling up until it lines up. Okay, wrong way. I need to rotate this around. Okay. And let's pull that down. There we go. And I'll pull off an empty space here, press shift, and voila. Alright. So trust the ruler. You might not trust it in the beginning, but trust it. How are we going to actually even begin to adjust all of these subtools, though? This is actually going to be a significant problem. I'm going to use transpose master, and I'm going to adjust everything kind of at once. So the first thing for me to do is to just set up all my rulers. That's just what I want to do. I want to set up my rulers, and then I'll go in and use transpose master to kind of adjust everything. So the first one I've set up, I'm going to duplicate this, going to move, pull it off to the side. Okay, and this one we want to go top of the head to the lip, and this one's actually inverted. It's not wanting to snap correctly. There we go. Had to fool it. There's an issue with ZBrush's gimbal lock. Okay, go to the top of that head. You can use this line at the top as well to sort that. Okay. And then drag that off. Okay. Let's make sure, there we go, the line in. Okay. Within range, the lip is within range right now, but basically this distance is going to get compressed if I'm following this ruler. These guys are going to get compressed. So my next unit of measurement, I don't need to do that just now. The eye, nose, whatnot. I'm going to switch over to the frontocephaloidal process, to the pupil and the lips. So we're going to assume that we know pupil to lips is set, and we're going to assume that we know that from this last measurement. So let's just duplicate it. And we're going to rotate it. Okay. There you go. And now into draw, Control Shift click, mask, Control Shift click, Control click to invert, and let's rotate just this little piece. I'm going to press shift so it locks, move, and I'm going to put it right there at that halfway marker. Okay. And now what we need to do is line up the lips. So let's position it, scale. I'm going to get that lip accurate, then move it back into position. Okay, I'm lining up this black line. That's a halfway marker. And I'm also lining the bottom of that with the pupil. I'm basically lining it up with what I did for this other measurement. So I'm keeping this as a unit of 1, this is a unit of 1, this is a unit of 6.18 from the pupil to the top of the head, and that exact same measurement then translates down 618. Pupil to the top of the head becomes frontal process, or frontal cephenoidal process to frontal cephenoidal process. So it means the eyes might end up moving in slightly, although not that much. Most significantly is going to be what happens with the lip and the nose placement. Alright. You can move these guys forward if you want to keep them distinct, as long as perspective is not on. You're in great shape. Totally lost my brain there. So we've got 1, 2, 3 set up. Nose width and nose lip width. Okay, those aren't really all that set up right now, and the width of the eye and all that. So this is really going to be enough for me to move forward and try transpose master, and then the other ones I'm going to be able to set up right after that. So I'll use Z plugin, transpose master, T-pose mesh. This is going to create a low-res version of each one of the parts that I'm sculpting here. So it goes subtool by subtool by subtool and creates that low-res mesh. A really powerful tool. If your model has a lot of polygons, it can run into problems, so you have to be a little bit careful with it. And, well, I don't know if I want to deal with the different materials, but I'm sure it's okay. Alright, so all the different subtools become their own poly group. What I want to do is mask my measurements. Control Shift click 1, Control Shift click and drag, Control Shift click, Control Shift click, click and drag, Control click to mask, Control Shift click, and you're good to go. Okay, so now we need to do our measurements, our adjustments. Make sure symmetry is on, move brush is active, turn polyframe on so I can see these lines. And what I'm looking for is this line, because remember that's 1 and 1.618. This is 1 and 1.618, so I'm okay there. Mostly I need that nose. Tip of the nose too, not the bottom. Okay. Alright, now we definitely need the width of the nose, so we're going to grab that here in just a moment. But I'm going to check my zygomatic. I'm basically rethinking this frontal process. So this is my frontal process moving into the zygomatic bone, orbit of the eye, eyeball, pupil, overhang, and temporal line. And I might move the zygomatic in slightly, as it's kind of indicated that fronto cephenoidal process could move in a little bit. But then that immediately draws some attention to really bagging lines there. So I'm going to move these guys in. Start to streamline this. I'm going from that in a little bit. Okay, a couple of other measurements we didn't really cover. They're not really there, but I'm also taking the width of the chin and making that a little bit smaller. Okay. Okay, we're getting somewhere with it. Let's send it back. T-pose to subtool. Alright, done. Let's turn these golden rulers off. We're already dealing with a different face. Let's load the old one in. Just making those simple adjustments, I think, did a lot to kind of help us. We have to do a little bit more, but we're in range to do some good stuff. So now we need width of nose, width of the lips. And you'll remember from early proportions, one way you get the corner of the mouth is by pulling out from the pupil of the eye. Okay, now if you've checked your reference since then, you'll know that that's not 100%. It could be on the inside of that pupil, the outside of that pupil. There's some variety that happens in there. Also, it could be the corner of the mouth or inside or outside that take effect. So there's just variety that happens there. But what I'm going to do is just assume straight up and down. And that means that I've got to come in here, grab one of these rulers, duplicate it, and now I'm going to lay it on its side. So rotate, shift, and let's assume the mouth is accurate. So I'm going to just lodge into the corner. Well, let's do this corner. Move, and then I'm just going to pull the other one in. Okay, there you go. Control Shift click on one, Control click, Control Shift click, Control click. Just the way you invert that mask. Okay, let's pull this over and see what we're doing for the width of the nose. Okay, we can do better. We can increase the width of that nose. So throw it over, T-pose mesh. Okay, all set. Hide these guys. There we go. Symmetry is on, move brush is active, and I'm going to pull out the nose. When I pull out the nose, I'm not just pulling the nose out, but I'm also opening up the nasal bone and spreading the muscles out and adjusting the bone structure underneath. So wise to keep that in mind. And I'm going to pull the eyes up a little. They got a little pulled down. Okay. All right. Clear your mask and then send it back. All right, there we go. Get rid of that ruler. We're on our way to a more attractive face with a couple of simple proportional changes. So let's reiterate those. Don't get me wrong, there are still problems, but this is absolutely, in my opinion, a much more attractive face than, let's go, where's the old one? Than this one. There's our old face. Pull it off onto one side. And there we go. Definitely, I think we're on our way. We got some issues with the lips, maybe some issues with the eyes, but otherwise, we're in really good shape. Let's check it with perspective as well. Okay, so with perspective, and it's kind of a hard perspective here. I'm going to turn aligned object off. There we go, it's a little better. And then you can go in and adjust this a little bit. I almost never adjust this, but with faces it tends to get a little strong. So anyways, we're in much better shape. So let's recap. What did we do? First thing we did is we found the tip of the nose. Okay, and the tip of the nose was basically eye to chin. Next thing we did was find the mouth. And the mouth was basically eye, pupil, top of the head. Okay, those were the two really important things that we established because it really helped position the nose. The nose is really the thing that was wrong the most in the sculpt that we have done to this point. And so fixing the nose made a big difference. Now the lip shape is not good here, but that's different from being proportionally wrong. Okay, now the next thing that we did. So 1, 2. Number 3. We got the width of the face, basically the frontocephaloidal process, from pupil to lip. Okay, it was a small adjustment that we made, but I think it ended up being an important adjustment, mostly because it also helped us line up the side of the face and pull that in. We can be talking about contouring in the next step. I'm going to talk about that. But right now, what it really helped me do is just get the side of the face and that masseter and the side of the cheek from being as bloated and as inflated as they were. Okay, the next thing, width of the mouth, which we assumed from the pupil, then helped us get the width of the nose. And that's important because in a female, you're going to tend to make that small anyways. Last measurement that we would check. Let's turn perspective off. Last measurement we would check would basically be the width of the eye in relationship to the pupil to the nose. That's going to be the last thing that we do right now. So I'm going to use our T-pose here, and I'm going to duplicate this. And actually we need to invert that. So let's just delete and we'll start over from scratch. Yeah. So duplicate, turn the other one off, rotate this around, or better yet, why don't we just position it? So pupil to the nose, that's going to be our 1.618. And then let's get this guy. Rotate that around, press shift so you snap it, and then let's put that right there. Actually, yeah, we'll do it that way. I don't want to do it that way. I want to put it on this side. Okay, control click and drag. What I'm going to do right now, let's use move. I'm going to anchor the corner of the eye with the pupil. Okay, so I know I'm going to get the width of the eye, and I want to make sure that I'm bisecting that with halfway on the pupil. But halfway would then mean that the longer measurement would be down. Yeah, like that. Cool. That's going to work just fine. So then I'll just drag something out, use scale, and scale that in. And remember, it's tip of the nose, not the bottom of the nose. And we're in range. Everything looks fairly reasonable and solid. So with that last measurement in place, the next thing we need to look at, as I foreshadowed, is your contouring. And that's where we're going to really get into the front view, or the side view as well. Is this the contour that we want? Possibly, but possibly not. So that's going to be the next thing that we evaluate in the system of attractiveness.